Welcome to Charter Communications Local Edition from the Montana State Capitol in anticipation of the 2015 legislative session that starts in January. I'm Mark Staples, I'm your host, and our guest for this segment is the just moments ago elected House Minority Leader Chuck Hunter from Helena. Chuck, congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome to the program. Thank you for running, thank you for serving, and tell me a little about, and our viewing audience, a little about Chuck Hunter, your personal background, professional, and how you got into politics.
Mark, I really started my public service in the executive branch of state government. I worked there for 22 years in a variety of mostly administrative positions, and I moved around state government quite a bit from labor law programs. I ran the unemployment insurance program and worked in the workers' compensation system for a while. I moved to the Department of Public Health, where I ran the child welfare system for a number of years, and finished up doing work with Medicaid and CHIP and Healthy Montana Kids, children's mental health. So I spent a long time with inside state government.
And we're in these halls forever before you.
Yes.
Ran, right?
Yeah, I have been actually here at the legislative session every year since 1987, so quite some time. I retired from state government in 2005. I'm now an owner of a small business just outside of Helena, so I'm kind of learning the other side of life away from government in the private business sector, and that's been a very enjoyable thing for me to do.
And who encouraged you? How did you come to run? I mean, you were involved in all these policy decisions anyway. Was it just a natural curve into running for office, or were you encouraged?
It really was a natural curve for me. In all of the years that I served in state government in the executive branch, I came over to the legislature to present my programs, bills, and budget. I was over here quite a bit, and I really came to admire the work that was done here, and I came to admire the people, the citizens who from all across Montana come here to serve. And I recognized after maybe 4 or 5 sessions that if I ever had the opportunity, it would be something I'd like to do as well. And fortunately enough for me, after I retired, the opportunity came, and I decided, well, this is my time, and so in 2009 was my first session, and I've enjoyed being here every session.
As a Helena legislator and a retired legislator, you must be like I am. You just can't imagine these people. One, they're not retired, and they're coming from far eastern or far western Montana and serving in Helena.
Yeah, it's
such
incredible.
A sacrifice.
It is really, and for me it's so nice. I can go home every night, sleep in my own bed, but the folks who come here for 90 days, and it's really longer than that.
Live in a third floor attic. And
my hats are off to them.
Yeah, mine too. Hey, the leadership was just settled, both parties. Give me the big picture and what your assessment is, and is it gonna be a big fight, or can we all get along?
Well, I hope we can all get along. There's no doubt that there are differences of views among the parties, and I would say just from observing the elections for leadership that we might have a slightly more conservative leadership on the Republican side of the aisle than we had last session. We are about the same in terms of leadership on our side. Many of the same folks, in fact,
right.
Are leaders again. I think we'll express our differences of views quite vigorously throughout the session, but I'm hopeful, following on some of the gains we made last session, I think, in terms of passing a number of big pieces of legislation in a bipartisan fashion, that we can take that to heart and that we can have the approach of, let's look for the things that are good for Montana that we can all agree on. Let's work on those and let's get those done. And then we can work on some of the other things that maybe we're farther apart on and try to find some common ground in smaller ways on those things.
Such as? Give me 2.
Well, 2 big things or 2 small things?
Go each way. Do the bigs first.
The bigs first, I'd say, the 2 bigs I think we're really going to have to work on to find common ground. The expansion of our healthcare system, be it a Medicaid or private option Medicaid kind of model. We weren't able to achieve that last session. We had some differences of views, even though I believe we had a majority of members of both houses that wanted that expansion to happen. So we will revisit that issue. I hope we can find common ground there. I think the governor's proposal for early childhood education will be another very big piece this session, trying to become one of the great majority of states who do provide funding for pre-K through the state. Our state doesn't do that, and I think we've missed opportunities there that we need to capitalize on, but that will be another big picture item. Other things that might be smaller. In the workers' compensation arena, we might talk about this more at length. We still need to do some things to improve that system, safety being the primary one in my
That's
view.
almost your specialty. You were of them, from them. You probably have as much expertise as anybody up here in work comp, and that's kind of near and dear to your heart. So.
It is, and in particular, I ran the regulatory side of the system
Right.
for about 8 years, so I know how the system works, and I know where a number of the issues are. And we have done so much over 20 years to lower costs in our workers' compensation system, and we've mostly done that on the benefit side. We've reduced benefits in all sorts of ways. What we haven't done, and in the 20 years since we started this dialogue in 1993, when then Majority Leader John Harp from Kalispell, passed the Safety Culture Act, we identified early on that safety is really the big place where we can change things and really reduce our costs, but we haven't gotten it done. So that's something that I'm hoping both sides of the aisle will say, yeah, it is time to do that. I think that's a place where we could find common ground.
From the outside looking in, I would say that's got more prospects for bipartisan than some other things. Let's say that it's next August. Session's over. This is your 4th term, so you're termed out. Now, some people say the termed out legislator in his last term is the most dangerous animal of all because you don't have to get reelected. So you really, do you feel that way at all? I mean, did you ever feel constrained about having to get elected, where you could go or not? You never seem to, but is there a freedom that comes with your last term?
I think there is a bit of a freedom that comes with your last term. I think if you have served, though, and you have been forthright and honest about your own beliefs, and
Right.
if you've represented your district well, I don't think there's much different that you would do in a last session than otherwise.
Okay, so let's go ahead to 2000. Let's go ahead August. And you're asked to write the history of the session, and you have to compare it to a history you write today. What's your hope that it says? What was accomplished in the 2015 session?
Well, my hopes would be these. When you talk to people across Montana, I think by far and away their biggest interest in terms of what they're concerned about, jobs in the economy. I think 3-1 over anything else. So I would hope that we have left this session doing some big things for infrastructure in Montana, increasing research and development efforts at our universities that translate into commercialized ventures afterwards, that we create a lot of jobs through investment and through bonding, I would say, because that's the way we can leverage our investment, that really create a lot of jobs and set up our economy for years to come in terms of developing new industries and expanding the ones that we have. So that would be the first thing I'd say. I would want to say we did find a way to find access to mental health for the 70,000 or so folks that could access it through an expansion. We have folks at the lowest spectrum of our economy that can't get any help getting health care, while folks at higher levels can get subsidies on the federal exchange. That's just wrong, and I think we ought to find a way to deal with that. Finally, I'd say I'm very much hopeful. As I toured around the state, in every community I heard people in every walk of life saying we need to do more about community services for mental health, and I think that's a place where both sides of the aisle are talking the same game about we need to do something and we need to do it this session.
Well, I appreciate it. I wish you luck in your last term, and I want to thank you for all your years of service, and I want to thank you for coming on our program. And again, best of luck in the 2015 session, that your hopes are realized. And I want to thank you, the viewing audience, for tuning in. And please give these legislators, whether you agree with them or not, give them your feedback and give them your thanks for sacrificing their time and to come and do the people's business. Thanks so much for tuning in to Charter's Local Edition.